Hi everyone, just making sure that we're all staying on point. We have 20 days left until the actual EOG, so I do not want you losing focus just because I'm not there. In front of you, you should have a PowerPoint presentation. Should be a couple pages, and I'm going to walk you through what I'm expecting to see because I will be grading this tomorrow when I come back. So let's make sure that we are all on point and we are staying focused. Obviously, our first slide is going to be our do now. You're going to be reading through these 3 paragraphs and answering the multiple choice question that again pertains to context clues, which we went over last week. Next, our objective for today is to make sure that we can determine the main idea of an informational text and to understand how details from the text develop. After this PowerPoint, you should find this sheet. It is a piece of nonfiction titled Jackie Robinson Breaks the Color Barrier. Right now in your PowerPoint, along the lines, I need you to answer these 2 questions.
Cameron Surratt, please report to the main office immediately.
About Jackie Robinson,
please report to the main
and
office
what does
immediately.
the title tell us about Jackie Robinson? So when I'm finished explaining, you're going to go back and you're going to fill in the answers to these questions right on that handout. Most importantly, what I want you taking away from this is that we might have to read something, whether it's poetry, nonfiction, or fiction, more than once. So what this is called is a clean read. So the first thing you should do after looking at the title is to read it clean. This is your first read because many times we can gain a deeper understanding if we're reading text more than once. During this first read, try and figure out what is going on in the text, any character names, events, etc., that you might want to come back to. So here is your first paragraph. I should see that everybody has drawn in their grid, and we have this margin space to write our summary, which we're going to do after our clean read. I am just going to model for you how I would do the first paragraph. So I'm going to read through it once as a clean read. Then I'm going to go back, make my annotations, and write in the margin my summary or my paraphrase for this paragraph. So let's take a look. Jackie Robinson breaks the color barrier. As with many aspects of life in late 19th century America, baseball was segregated. There were separate teams for black players because they were not allowed to play on white professional teams. In the late 1800s, professional African American players played on all-black teams such as the Cuban Giants. But some baseball managers and owners of major league teams wanted to hire African Americans. In order to get around the rules, they listed some black players as Hispanic or Native American. Baseball remained a segregated sport well into the 1940s. In 1945, a talented young player named Jackie Robinson joined the Kansas City Monarchs in the Negro American League. He would become baseball's great experiment. So now that we've read through it once, let's go back and annotate some of the things that stood out. Within that first line, I noticed the word segregated. Now, if you don't know what segregated means, again, use your context clues to figure that out. We can't seem to determine it based on the sentence that segregated is in, but if we look at the sentence that follows, it says there were separate teams for black players because they were not allowed to play on white professional teams. That sounds like a definition to me. So, teams were separated, black players and white players. In the late 1800s, professional African American players played on all black teams, such as the Cuban Giants. Okay, I got an example out of that. But what's important to me is that managers and owners of major league teams wanted to hire African Americans. So managers and owners were starting to think about incorporating these African American players into one league. Sometimes even to get black players on the teams, they lied and said they were Hispanic or Native American. And it remained segregated well into the 1940s. However, in 1945, a talented young player named Jackie Robinson joined the Kansas City Monarchs in the Negro American League. He would become baseball's great experiment. So this date will probably be important because we know this great experiment happened around that time. So how can we take all of this information, and paraphrase it. We're going to write in our margin that this paragraph has something to do with baseball teams being segregated into the 1940s. So I'm going to see that you do that for the next 2 paragraphs to finish up this article. When you're done, you need to make sure that you have answered this question as well as this one, which can be found in that PowerPoint, and that you're summing it all up with your stop and jot at the very end, which is your exit ticket. This is all going to be collected at the end of the period, and it will count as a grade. So please take your time and make sure you are concentrating.